Well, good morning everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Mining and Jobs Opportunities in South Australia. I'm Phil Corsi and this presentation is presented to you by the Resources and Engineering Skills Alliance. If during the course of the presentation you have any questions, please type them into the question pane on the control panel of the webinar, and you may send your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and answer all of the questions at the end. Thank you. So I'm Phil Corsi, as I said, the CEO of the Resources and Engineering Skills Alliance, and today with me I have Jody Badcock, who is the Workforce Development Manager for RESA. Today, what we're going to talk to you about is the first quarter of information relating to hiring intent. The disclaimer is just a standard disclaimer to say that this information is provided with best intentions, and I'll leave you to read through that. Well, thank you for that. As I mentioned, our Resources and Engineering Skills Alliance is a not-for-profit organisation which is interested in developing the resources and capability of the workforce for the resources sector in South Australia. Fundamentally, RESA as an organisation is interested in how do we understand what skills are needed and how do we develop those skills for the resources sector. And when we're talking about the resources sector, we're talking about mining, oil and gas, engineering and related supply chains companies. As an organisation, our undertakings are to research, analyse and provide advice to industry and government on workforce-related matters, to conduct workforce training and development services, which includes a range of services for industry and government, and to help build business capability through programs for the MEPS supply chain. Our organisation is a collaboration between industry and government, and we aim to improve business, social and economic outcomes for South Australia. So, the Hiring Intentions Report itself. This report is an analysis of the last quarter's advertised vacancies to get an understanding of the current skills demand and the types of skills required, as well as the activity of the industry in terms of projects which may require skills. And we do this so that we can help to identify opportunities and pathways for people in South Australia. At RESA, we've been gathering information with regard to hiring intentions and vacancies over a period of about 5 years. And we have gained a deep understanding of the labour market and how it's unfolding, and it's based on real data. We use this information in conjunction with information provided from the Australian Bureau of Statistics and other sources to map opportunities for jobs and employment. Of course, the mining sector, mining and resources sector, plays an important part in South Australia's economy and the economy of Australia, and offers significant opportunities for employment both directly in mining and oil and gas, but in the supply chain. So now I'd like to pass to Jody, who will discuss the data that we have for this quarter.
Thank you, Phil. I'd just like to start with talking about the data that we actually collect and what we do with it so that you understand the context of the reports that we're presenting today. So we look at the seek advertisements for the resources and energy sectors. We can collect and analyse the online advertised vacancies that meet the criteria of jobs for South Australians. So the jobs are either located in South Australia or they have iPhone capability so that people can live in South Australia and still undertake those positions. We classify the vacancies, so SEEK will have classification for vacancies. We further break that down so that we can contextualise it specifically to what's happening in this state. We look at the subsector of the job title, so that's, for example, a driller working in oil and gas or an engineer works in engineering. So we look at the subsector by what the job is that's undertaken. We look at the job level, so whether it's an entry-level position, a technical position, a trade position, a supervisor position or a professional position. We look at the location by region, and we look at the actual occupations themselves. So in our classifications, there's 19 different subsectors that we look at, 7 different levels of occupation, and 635 different occupation titles that relate to the industry sectors that we cover. And a further note, when we look at multiple positions advertised through one vacancy, we count that as one vacancy. So if it's an advertisement for 20 mobile plant operators, we count that as one advertisement. And we also look at advertisements where there may be more than one job title listed. So if there's drillers and drillers offsiders listed in one vacancy, we actually will count that as 2 separate jobs based on the job titles for the region. So the first questions we ask is, are there any jobs in the resources and energy sector in South Australia? And that's been an interesting conversation over the past 12 months particularly. And what we are seeing is a consistent increase in the number of jobs that are being advertised for South Australians. We're not at the boom time highs of 2013 in the industry, but we're making a strong recovery from the 2015 downturn. We've looked at 193 advertisements in April in 2015, in this April, compared to 55 advertisements this time last year. So the growth is not only continuing, but it's increasing.
Now I just wanted to compare the South Australian circumstances to the national figures. This is a data point provided by the FP Mining Resources Job Index, which shows national occupations and jobs. It's clear in the gold line presented with regard to Mining Resources Job Index that nationally the growth of the resources sector is slower than it is in South Australia. I think that is a reflection of the types of commodities that are produced in the sector in South Australia. That is that South Australia has a gold, copper and uranium underpinning of its resources for the mining sector. The oil and gas sector in South Australia is moving in line with the sector nationally. But this is a different factor, and later during the presentation we'll talk about the new projects that are coming online and how they will be influencing the job types and job numbers.
Okay, sorry, we'll be ourselves. During the last 13 months, the data shows when indexed against the 2013 and 2014 vacancies, that there's an improvement from about 1/5 of opportunities in April last year to 20% more than 2014 in 2017. So what we're seeing is that we're in a much stronger position now than we were even prior to the downturn. Well, if there's all these jobs out there, where are they? We've done a breakdown of the advertisements by region. So this is for the quarter, that's January, February and March, advertised positions by region. And the regions that we're looking at are Adelaide, Feasibility Study, and the list is provided for you there. In quarter 3, the vacancies were predominantly in Adelaide and Feasibility in the Outback region, which is to be expected because that's where the majority of the operations are. 52% of the vacancies have been identified in remote and regional areas, so there are actually more jobs in the regional areas than there are in Adelaide. And in addition to that, that 48 or almost 48% indicated for Adelaide can be analysed further, and when we break that down, we actually see that some of those jobs actually exist in regional areas, but the advertiser or the employer is based in Adelaide. So we have a breakdown of that by subsector. When we look at the Adelaide vacancies for quarter 3 by subsector, we can see that drilling and blasting, equipment operations, mechanical and metal jobs and exploration and field service make up 48.22% of all of the vacancies in Adelaide. So that's half of the positions advertised for Adelaide that are based on the occupations and more than likely actually located in regional areas. When we look at the particular positions in the areas, so if we look at Wales and the Eyre Peninsula for starters, we've got 4 advertisers that are direct companies, 10 in the Met sector, 2 in the Met sector, and then, and 8 contractors in the Whyalla and Eyre Peninsula area. In the Cooper Pedy and Outback region, there's 4 companies recruiting directly, 10 in the Met sector, and 25 contractor companies actually recruiting people in those areas. And I guess this is important to understand for job seekers or people that are moving into the sector or supplying to the sector, that the opportunities aren't necessarily with the mine operators, but with the organisations going to them. When we look at the Adelaide vacancies, there are 14 companies that are advertising directly, and it's interesting to note that 7 of those companies are energy companies. There's 2 government departments, and the Met sector represents 31 different companies advertising for people in quarter 3, along with 43 contractor companies. Keep in mind, if you wanted to have a close look at who those employing companies are, the presentation will be available on our website following today's webinar. When we look at Cooper Pedy and Outback SA by subsector, so what are the types of jobs that are actually being advertised? We can see that 36% of the positions are for operators, 21% in maintenance roles, and 13% in engineering and engineering management. It is interesting to note that the electrotechnology roles are at 5%, which is up from previous quarters. When we look at the vacancies by occupational level, what we can see is that 50% of the vacancies were for in trades positions and operator positions, which is the same as the the second quarter, and 1/3 of the vacancies are for professionals. When we look at the entry-level opportunities, they're still at 6% of the total vacancies for the quarter. There is an increase in the proportion of operators, as we see from the data tracked across the quarter. So from January to March, we have seen a marked increase in the proportion of operators. And there's also an increase in trade opportunity, which is interesting because it shows that the recruitment of tradespeople isn't just linked to shutdown activity, which might have been expected, because it's been an actual continual growth in demand. And it's starting to become consistent. When we look at the professional occupations, they are increasing in proportion to the overall number of vacancies. The top 5 advertisers for this period, so these are the advertisers who have listed the most vacancies in the quarter. They're listed there, don't need to go into a lot of detail, but the interesting thing to notice is that 4 out of 5 of them are not operating companies, but labour hire and contracting.
Thanks, Jody. Well, this part we'll just talk about industry activity that is creating the need for these people, these skills, and the job opportunities. In South Australia, there are about 15 producing mines at the moment. This comes from the Department of State Development's data point on SARID, which actually lists 11 operating mines, but there are a number that have been in for operation for some time. These displayed are a simple representation of those where most of the jobs are coming from. They show an increase in the level of gold mining in South Australia, which has been quite an interesting change. They're also showing a preponderance moving towards underground mining operations, and that's an important skill set change that we're seeing in South Australia. Some of these new underground operations take shape, such as the Carrapateena underground project. That project is commenced in Fidos Minerals. I think the important part of this presentation is to convey that the resources industry is very much alive and well in South Australia. And this graph will show you the total number of jobs advertised each month over a period since January 2013, when we're at the peak of the mining boom. We've gone through the decline in the financial year 14-15, and during the latter part of 16, calendar year 16, we've started to see a significant increase, which has continued into this year. And that increase in monthly job ad numbers is moving up to be higher than we've seen since about May 2013, which is a significant undertaking. This chart is the raw data, not manipulated, not seasonally adjusted or indexed. So therefore, it has a very clear indication of the future of jobs. It provides a hiring intentions report, which means that it is actually a leading indicator of future jobs in South Australia, and it's important to consider what training and what skills and what recruitment should be done at the moment to support those skills. The data, the increase in number is clearly supported by the ABS data that shows that in the quarter just reported that South Australia has grown to more than 10,000 jobs in the mining sector, which is a considerable increase from the 8,700 that were reported in February of this year. So a significant increase. And over a period of time, we're seeing more jobs coming online. These are generally coming into the future about feasibility studies, mining proposals and assessments that are continuing to grow the industry in South Australia. This really is showing more of the same in the types of commodities that are being produced in South Australia, with some notable exceptions. Iron Road has just had a mining licence approval and has had primary approval for their production, and that we'll see Iron Road continuing to do planning and seek approval for the next stage of their mine development in the centre of the Eyre Peninsula. Additionally, we've seen a number of graphite producers who are now coming onto the market and having approvals, and they are all looking at how they are going to skill their workforce into the future. And finally, the rise in the energy sector. We've seen that there are a number of organisations, including Adani, that are looking at a solar development in South Australia, and these also, renewable jobs also require people. The feasibility studies are spread well throughout the state, particularly in the far north and west, and this map shows a representation of where those projects are. They're shown in green. There is a range of different commodities that are represented by these projects, and they are often related to copper and gold. When we move into the new mining proposals and leases and CAPAs, we're seeing these represented in an orange colour are showing where those projects are. For Iron Road, the 9-foot rail line are also significant projects requiring a high level of workforce and skill. So thank you for attending. That provides background information on the changes that we are seeing in the resources workforce in South Australia. We would now welcome some questions, and we'll take the opportunity to poll those. So the first question that I have relates to electrotechnology roles, and the question is, are they related to the ongoing power issues in South Australia? Well, in the first instance, the government's response to the power issues is still being developed, and they have indicated and announced power station and some other proposals, but we're not yet seeing those into the job roles. The job roles that we're seeing for electrotechnology still relate to the renewable sector, largely in the solar sector, as well as the wind energy sector. Do you have any other comments about the electrotechnology and renewable sector?
There are some senior type positions being advertised within operating companies, and I believe that's probably them taking a strategic position about how they can address their energy issues. So they're at a very high professional level in research type roles. So I think that the electrotechnology is not just in the generating power and transmitting power, but it's also in investigating what the solutions are best going to be. So they're across all levels.
Thanks, Jodie. The next question relates to the Iron Road project. And the question is, when do we think that that will move through? The Iron Road mining lease was recently granted, and that's a primary approval process. They do have a number of other approvals that are required. My understanding is that the PEPA and approvals for the construction of the rail will be submitted this year, and that we should expect then that Iron Road will move into investment into the project, which requires substantial investment, and you may see that that project will come online in the next year, the next calendar year. So the question I have, a final question is the roles in the net sector in South Australia. What types of companies are they with? The issue around METs, and I think you would have seen it in terms of the contractors and supply side companies, there are quite a significant number of advertisers. They are a range of different organisations who provide different services to the sector, and they range from civil construction type activities as a subcontractor to supply of goods and services. So it's hard to categorise METs in the same way as a core business. But we will have a list of those companies on the website with this presentation, and we'll be able to then understand the link between their service providers and the industry.
So we have a question regarding the top 5 companies in which projects RESA and RESA might be connected with. Because we take our data from the SEEK website, we can't really identify the projects unless they identify themselves, but we have got the vacancies by region, so we can give an indication of the region that they are recruiting for, and then you can see the operations in those regions. The best way to find that out would be to actually give them a call if it's something that's pertinent to where you see your direction going. It's not actually information that we have access to. But we would be happy to provide a list further information directly based on the regions where they're recruiting. If you'd like to send us through an email, we can follow that up with you directly. We just have a question coming through. Bear with us. Then we have a question regarding apprenticeship roles. We're starting to see them in the mechanical area, electrical area, and fitting area. But again, I could give you a breakdown of them directly if you wanted to contact us by email. So they're not in one particular area, but they're definitely in the traditional trade. And it's really good to see those entry-level opportunities starting to come up again. They haven't for probably 6 months or so, maybe even longer. But it does show some kind of confidence when people are starting to look at skills for the future as well as meeting their immediate needs.
Well, thank you, Jodie, and thank you everybody for attending today. I think we've we've seen a very positive picture of the outlook of the industry and growth of jobs in the sector in South Australia. I think we should be cautious also that this sector is growing as well as other sectors. We've heard in South Australia regarding the defence sector and the future requirement for apprenticeships, particularly in those skills that we've just discussed, electrical, boiler makers and fitters, are always going to be in high demand. It's a very enduring qualification, and we need to think about how we can continue to build the pool of apprentices that move into those jobs, because we will be in competition to other sectors. So thank you very much. This webinar will be up on the website in the next day, and we'll be welcoming your questions and feedback.